I think a lot of gamers are kind of fed up with the established Far Cry formula and have been for a good number of years.
Yeah.
The games
Far
play
Cry
very
6
similarly.
was one too much in that formula. They had to change more with Far Cry 6
Yeah.
already, I think.
I think mechanistically, Far Cry 6 did a lot of things better than its predecessors, but it was the same game that we had seen
Yeah.
over and over again. So even though Giancarlo Esposito was amazing, it just wasn't quite
I love the main
enough.
character as well. Like, but one of the biggest feature, it kind of felt like a Mirage thing, where one of the biggest features were bringing back features that people loved from the previous games that they ripped out with Far Cry 5 and New Dawn,
Yeah.
like the narration for for your main character and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because it's also like it's the same thing with Assassin's Creed Mirage, where like the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
exciting news is that it's not like the most recent games, but it's like the older ones. It's just it's
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
how it works. But basically, there was some news that came out this morning. What happened, Mr. JorRaptor, with the Far Cry?
Yeah, so obviously, so again, Ubisoft is going to really focus on their biggest franchise. That's kind of their tactic moving forward. So we got the Tom Clancy, so Division, Ghost Recon, and Rainbow Six. Then we obviously know that there are 10 plus Assassin's Creed games in development, and Far Cry is another one of those pillars that they want to focus on. Far Cry 6 did not do as well as they had hoped, so they know that they have to reinvent some stuff here and there. And now we got a leak from Tom Henderson, who has been very credible, who got info on the first, on like Far Cry 7, which also internally called Far Cry 7. So probably going to be called that, or like Project Blackbird is the internal name. But yeah, it will likely be Far Cry 7. And we also know that there might be like a PvP sort of spin-off that they're going to do as well. Because we, of course, had Far Cry PvP with the arcade mode and stuff, but they kind of, yeah, put that to the side with Far Cry 6, but they want to go all in with Far Cry 7. It's scheduled for fall 2025. So not next year, but the year after that. Next year, of course, got Red as like the big game, the Japan Assassin's Creed. But this Far Cry game, one of the interesting things is obviously it's going to be like developed by Montreal. Far Cry 6 was Toronto. So they're going back to like the main studio for Far Cry. And they're leaving their previous engine behind and moving to the Snowdrop engine, which we know from Division. Avatar is now using it as well. And the Star Wars game Outlaws is using Snowdrop as well. So they're really moving a lot of their internal development to this engine. I mean, it looks awesome. So I'm curious how a Far Cry first-person game will play. But obviously, a lot of people are saying Avatar is already Far Cry. So it will probably be... they will probably use some elements from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's the kind of interesting stuff is that it will be a non-linear story, and the player's family has been kidnapped. So we have to get them back. There's of course one group, Sons of Truth. It kind of sounds like the Eden's Gate, Far Cry 5. It sounds like a cult that has been taking your family, and the interesting part is that there's an in-game timer that stands at 72 hours or 24 hours in real time. But that timer can be paused when the player enters one of their safe houses. And basically, that is the time that you have to save your family members. If you take longer, they will be killed. And it is actually non-linear, meaning that you can go after maybe your brother or your sister or your mom or your father, whatever, in the order that you want, which we've seen before in Far Cry, obviously, that you can, from moment one kind of choose where to go. And if a family member gets killed, then that will have an impact on the story. So it seems like instead of always kind of winning, always waving the flag at the end of a story arc or whatever, you can actually fail. And it really sounds like LA Noire to me, because they also have a new interrogation mechanic in the game where you can get information from the enemy. Sometimes the enemy will give up the information. Sometimes they will lie or stay quiet, or sometimes even escape, it was said. So, again, two elements from LA Noire, of course, the Rockstar detective game, where you also had to interrogate people and kind of read their sort of face. Are they lying or not? And also in that game, if you were too late at the crime scene, then the killer could have already escaped. So it seems like they're bringing some cool things from that into this game. So, I mean, this sounds kind of... I have many questions. Like, the in-game timer. So when you start this game, you have 72 in-game hours, which are 24 hours. So you have 24 hours to basically finish the main story. That's basically what they're saying.
Yeah.
So you're kind of punished for getting distracted and doing the side content. That's kind of weird. Right?
I actually kind of love this. At least in concept. Again, I mean, it might be just totally horrible when we actually get our hands on it, but this reminds me actually of Dead Rising, a game from all the way back in 2006. It's actually pretty, nowadays it's quirky. I think it's actually, it might not be on Game Pass, but it's like $3 on Steam. I mean, it's pretty lighthearted and fun. But in this game, there's a concept where you have an in-game timer, because basically a helicopter is coming back to pick you up, and you have to solve the mystery of what's going on and save as many people as you can before that timer expires. And it's up to the player. Like, they can screw up and a main story character can die or get jumped by zombies or whatever else, and then you fail the main story and it's just over. Or you can load back to a previous save and keep going. You can just blow off the main story and just dick around in the hotel, or in the mall rather, not the hotel, the mall, and just have fun exploring and collecting stuff. You can do that. It's just up to the player. But if they want to take the story seriously, they take the story seriously, and they're on time crunches to do that. But if they want to just have fun and go explore and go crazy, they can also just explore and do that. And I think this is a much better way of dealing with it than what a lot of games do, which is they have this really intense narrative, like, plot point, which is your family's been kidnapped, save them. And then you spend 20 hours like going and messing in side content. It was one of my biggest frustrations with like Fallout 4 is your son's been kidnapped. Okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to set this wall here, and I'm going to put this stuffed animal here. And like, you just totally get distracted. If you take the story seriously, you don't engage with any side content. But if you want to have the most fun, because they built it with side content in mind, you end up just like not being immersed in the story because you ignore the actual plot points that they've established.
Yeah.
So
Very common open world thing, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to me to hear them doing this. It's novel, it's different, and that's exactly what we've been wanting out of a Far Cry game. And again, it could change. This is early. We're talking about a game that's like 2 years out still. So they might rebalance it. It might turn into 36 hours of real world time. It might change down to 12.
Maybe
Who
you
knows?
can like buy a booster and then you get 10 extra hours. That would be a
We were joking about that in chat earlier. I was like, oh my
really?
God, if they do it like you need 5 extra hours before the credits roll, and so they sell you like a $5 5-hour expansion or booster or whatever, that would be so toxic, man. Oh, hopefully they don't do that. If they did that, we will all tease the ever living crap out of them, and they will deserve it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's interesting.
Yeah. My another thing, and there's like a really a me problem, but I, for like recording footage, for like showcasing weapons, because for the Far Cry games I've been like making guides and stuff, I always like to record during day, and with the recent Far Cry games you could like really change that. So for this game, that's weird, right? So if it's really 72 hours, that means that you will spend a really long time after each other in like dark areas. So you will be like playing for like maybe 4 hours in the dark, right? At one time, because it will be night and you cannot change it, because that would, kind of hurt the narrative. So
The cool
not
thing,
sure how I feel about that.
well, the cool thing is that they can tie missions to that time period. So in Dead Rising, they also did this where it's like, this mission is available from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. because you get a call like, this person is stranded in the cafeteria or the food court and is being attacked by a horde of zombies. If you don't get to them in time, the zombies are going to kill them. Like, that just is what it is, because they're taking the story seriously. It's set in actual time periods. So you have to deal with it in that time period. So with Far Cry 7, what I would imagine it is it's like, okay, from 1 to 5 a.m., it's dark. So this is when you can do the mission to take down this encampment or to go and assassinate this target while it's dark outside. And that could be really cool.
Yeah, maybe it's like during dark there is less guards because they sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that could also be really cool. And this kind of reminds me of what Starfield did as well. I don't want to spoil it, but there was at one point something that was like a week later or something, and I was like doing some selling stuff. So I was like, if you like go forward like 48 hours, the store resets, so you can like sell more stuff. So I was like doing that, and then at one point it was like, where were you at this day? Because I was like, what the heck? I was not paying attention to the time. And of course, like Cyberpunk has these things as well, but luckily in that game you can just go to the location. I'm just gonna wait, and then you're in the convenient or like in the time period that the mission takes place in. So I personally like the more quality of life, not having to worry about that. But on the other hand, like you said, I am ready for something new in Far Cry, and this does sound like that, and this could make, because they obviously don't want to like get rid of the complete formula for the game, but they could make the existing formula way more interesting by having this timer in the back of your head, and also maybe if the time of day plays a part in it.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm all in for a game that sets up an interesting story and then tries to take that story seriously. That's one of my biggest frustrations with Ubisoft stuff in general, is that it's generally pretty lighthearted. They might have some intense stuff happen, but when it comes to gameplay, all of a sudden it's very arcadey and just silly and goofy. So I'm interested. We will see. Again, it's 2 years out probably, but we'll find out.
One more thing though. What if like you, for example, so you have your multiple, like obviously you will have a big open world, and then you will have intel that your brother is being held over there and your mother over there, whatever. What if deciding the order actually also changes the mission, because you will of course get to your first sort of point in on day one, and then to the second point on day two. But what if you replay the game and then on day one, a different thing has happened, because obviously you're not in that time yet. Maybe I'm like thinking of things that they will probably not do, but I do think they could really like just build this world that has this realistic time that will happen no matter what, and just where you show up, that is what happens at that point in time, because it's kind of Westworld, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
There's a lot of potential, because I mean, it's the first time in a while that Ubisoft is trying something different, and we'll see if it actually like leads to truly different gameplay, or if this is all just marketing types of talks where they can be like, yeah, and you're on a strict timeline, but it ends up that the main story is actually like 15 hours long. And so it's like, yeah, you have 24 hours to do it, but there's no rushing involved whatsoever. You'll have plenty of time. So we'll just have to see. I mean, but it's at the very least different and interesting, and that's all we've wanted. So I'm here for it.
Maybe they're doing it so they can say Far Cry 8 doesn't have a timer because you guys didn't like it. So they're like,
we tried, guys.
Yeah, we tried.
Stop complaining. Or they have an easy mode where they turn the timer off. We'll see about that. I don't know. They need to stick to it though.
Yeah, no, they will. Yeah.
He took my thing.